We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Jana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
She was told that she couldn't play with the boys. She was told that they were too big, too rough, too strong. She was told to give up her dreams and move on. She was told to just be pretty, be quiet, be a lady. She was told that women had to stay on their side of the court, stay in your lane. Playing and competing with men was insane. She was told that men and women would never be equal. Dreaming like that would only be linked to your mind, to your soul. She never listened. She knew that their thinking was old. She is magic. She is the definition of spirit. She is what champions are made of. She is now.
Greetings and welcome to Access Wealth Nation, getting your checkup from the neck up on your financials and making a difference in your life. I am Dr. Jana B. Woodhouse, helping you to move forward in this journey of financial freedom. And of course, we're broadcast through the Soul City Broadcast Network and of course also on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. So definitely, I'm glad to say and welcome to tune in to our session again. As I told you that we will be going through different levels to get you to the level of understanding how money works. That being said, of course, the offer is always standing that you can get the book, How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker, distributed over 500,000 across this country. It is the #1 financial literacy book. My partners, Steve Seabolt and Tom Matthews, wrote it, but I believe that we have to use every tool that we can possibly use. And so this is one that I will give to you freely. Send it to you. All you have to do is send me an email at Anaj Enterprises Inc. That's ANAJ Enterprises Inc. at gmail.com. And just make sure I have your address. And I will make sure you receive the book. It is so important. But first and foremost, as one of the characters says, read the book. Okay, so once you get it, read it, let me know what you think about it. There's no obligations for this. Of course, I do believe that you always need to have a plan. And if you don't have a plan, you are planning to fail. So in respects to that, of course, Anaj Enterprises will provide you with a free financial analysis. All you got to do is give a call at 646-375-2121 and say that you heard on Access Wealth Nation that we would be willing to give you a free, no obligation financial analysis. Well, what does that really mean? That means that we look at where you are and where you want to be. That's called a roadmap. And so if you are interested in receiving an analysis, and then if you want us to work with you, fine, no obligation. I just believe that we must have a plan. And above all, it needs to be written. You know, we do everything through the internet, the telephone, we click, 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 but something about paper. And I know we have a slight paper shortage due to the import that's not being done from China, but it's okay. We have enough paper to make sure you get your financial needs analysis. And so, that being said, today we're going to talk. Oh, let me definitely thank the African Leadership Awards Committee uh, and those that decided to create this African Leadership Awards. The past Saturday, I had the honor of receiving one of the leadership awards. It was a star-studded event, and I will definitely give all praises to the president and founder, Mr. Do. No, Mr. Joe. I'm going to get that straight, because he's a brother from another mother. But Mr. Joe, I thank him, and along with all the other recipients, it was a great honor. Take a chance, look at it when you can. There's some streaming online, the African Leadership Awards. It's when we get a chance to honor ourselves across the world, not just within the United States, but across the entire world. The African diaspora was truly represented. So, big ups to also Tara Renee, who represents New York, along with Amadou Diop, and they put on a great event. It's just great. And to hear some of the people speak, of course, I'll say to anyone, it was a challenge a bit because a lot was done in French, but it's okay. We can always find a way to communicate with each other, and that's the important part, that we don't segregate ourselves because of language, religion, but the fact that of culture, we are bound and united. And that's so important in this day and age because we can make a difference. So I didn't want to leave that out because that was such an honor and such a beautiful award. Uh, Next coming is that we have, of course, some events coming up on Mondays. Every Monday, if you'd like information, you can contact the office at 646-375-2121. We give free classes every Monday at 7 p.m. And we call it Enterprise. And it's an enterprise because it goes through the 7 money milestones, and it covers basically what you should be doing as a business owner and an individual, both. So with the book, you get the book and you get free classes that you can definitely learn how money works. And that's one of the things that's so important. This is the number one step in the 7 money milestones is financial literacy. Financial literacy is so important. If you don't know how money works, you are doomed. You are just as doomed as we were years ago when people could not read. Well, it's unusual to find someone in today's world that can't read. They do exist, but we can help them along their way. But the average individual, they say about 64% of individuals do not understand the simple concept of compound interest, which now many of y'all who watched the show last week, we talked about the rule of 72, but they don't know the basics. And that's when you know the basics. I remember my mom always told me when I was coming up, I got to be about 6, 7 years old, and she sent me to the store. And she says, it's time that you learn how to count. I was counting before that because when other kids was doing ABCs, I got it. I learned how to deal with how do I count my money. So it's been a part of me all of my life. But the thing is that this now is a time when we must understand the basics of how money works. And so every bit that you can get in education is necessary. The fundamentals are important. And it is so powerful once you understand. I mean, we have all this news coming at us. And one thing that I will say is that when you're dealing with financial literacy, you want to understand as much as possible, but also you want the opportunity to work with financial professionals, hopefully people that look like you and understand you, and understand how you work with your money. I remember being on Wall Street, and one of my associates had a person of color as a client. And he said, Jana, I just don't get it. Why do people talk about borrowing from Peter to pay Paul? That was one of her issues, that why she came to me was to move to the next level. She didn't want to borrow from Peter to pay Paul. And I said, okay, this is a cultural thing. It means that you don't have all the money to pay for the bills, so you're borrowing and paying bit by bit by bit. He said, well, why she didn't just say that? And I said, because it's a cultural thing. She should be my client. But that being said, those are the things that we need to do to get ourselves straight. And we need to get ourselves straight with this economy, the way that it's going. Number one, we cannot be frightened of the market, frightened about what's going on with these elections. Fear. As a faithful person, fear and faith cannot be in the same place. Remember that. We are some faithful people. So therefore, we don't have time for fear. We just have to know that God's got our back, and we're moving forward, and we're going to be able to overcome. In my speech this Saturday, I know there's an adage that says, together the ants ate the elephant. Well, there was an extra little adage to it, is that together the ants conquered the elephant. And we have to conquer financial illiteracy. It is so necessary in this day and age and at this time. And so, to assist us in this mission, because this is my heartfelt mission, and I'm glad to see other people on the mission and the route to make a difference. And so I have a special guest for us today. But before I mention anything, if you have any questions, comments, please put it in the comment section, and I'll be glad to be able to address it. Or again, my guest coming on will be able to address what's going on. It's I think they say it's almost 50 years since the song "What's Going On" was out. Well, that's what we have to do is to find out what's going on and how do we make a difference. So, with no further ado, I have to bring on this special guest. You are so blessed and highly favored because of this. Is that we have Reverend Dennis Dillon, and I'd like to bring him on. Hi, how
Well,
are we?
Dr. Jana, blessings on you. I am doing wonderful. And I just want to say that I'm the one who is blessed and truly favored just to be in your presence and to be with you on Access Wealth Nation and Soul City. My pleasure, indeed an honor.
Well, thank you so much for those kind words. Well, it's so great and a blessing to see someone who has the passion. And I saw you on another one of Soul City's shows, Urbanology. And I said, I need to talk with him because now we have kindred souls. I want to bring financial literacy and freedom to our community. And I want to also, not only I'm doing it, but we have to get our businesses straight. We have to be about the business of being in business. It's interesting. Some time ago, I remember sitting in on a session, a business session, and the person kept talking about how you just, you get in business and you get all these write-offs and you got to show a loss. And I'm like, no, you got to show profit. there's things to do with this profit. We've got to go. So I understand, and you're going to tell us a little bit about it, is that you have an event taking place, I believe it's on the 17th and 18th of this month. Very powerful numbers. I know Lloyd Strayhorn is out there saying yay, yay to the, the 17th and the 18th. But during that time, we've got something called Resurgence 2022. So that being said, can you tell us a little bit about this Resurgence 2022?
Well, let me just say, consistent with what you're talking about, that I do believe that the agenda, what needs to be at the top of Black America's agenda, and certainly Black people across the globe, but what needs to be at the top of the agenda, what needs to be the true civil rights movement, what ought to be the union organizing movement that we've seen in the 60s and 70s and even the 50s. But I believe it has to now be a financial literacy movement. It has to be an economic empowerment movement. And so we're committed to really play our role in really helping to get this message to our people and get it to the masses. It is key, it is critical. So Resurgence is really about the resurging of the Black economic power, the Black economic energy, whether we're talking about Black Wall Street in America or we're going much further back and looking at the fact that it is Africa and African people across the globe that have set the economic path for the rest of the world. Our agenda and commitment, Dr. Jana, is really for us to create a resurge, a revival, a resparking, so that this new energy and this new movement really begin to take ground amongst our people.
Well, that is awesome. And okay, we've got the flyer up. The doors, it's a powerful event. You've got some great speakers. I saw Malik Yoba was there,
Yes.
George Frazier of yourself, because we must understand that you have that wisdom because you started the Christian Times. That's phenomenal, and it has lasted through the years. And even during a time when people stopped reading, didn't want to, and it was simplistic. The old adage says that if you want to hide something, put it in a book and or put it in the paper. But I do remember a very powerful individual here in New York, Rupert Murdoch, said that if we controlled the radio, the TV, and the newspapers, we controlled the minds of the people. And so we have Soul City with the TV network. We have WHCR. We have WBLS for the radio. And we have Christian Times in the paper that we can speak for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one of the weak areas for Black people, and this is certainly an area that needs more attention, and I certainly post this conference want to again pull together Black media outlets from all across the region and begin to look at how do we own our voices. It is troubling that for the most part we do not own our voices, so that's key. But as we talk about the 8 doors of access, and I won't necessarily go through all of them, but what we're really talking about with this is access to capital. How do we make sure that Black people have access to capital? I firmly believe that to whom we give our dollar is to whom we give our power. And for such a long period of time, and we continue to this very day, we've been giving our power to everybody else. Just to think that 7 banking institutions in the New York area control well over $200 billion of annual deposits from the Black community alone. and we can't get loans in a lot of cases are really some of the issues that we want to address. So we're happy that banking institutions are coming to the table. CDFIs, which are smaller institutions that are certified by the federal government to give smaller loans. We call them microloans to what we would probably call the conventionally unbankable. So even folks who are not qualified for conventional loans can come to this conference and begin to talk to these smaller micro lenders about lending opportunities. So access to capital is key. Access to corporate and government contracts. Just to think that there's about 3 corporations in the city of New York that owns $20 billion contracts with the city of New York. And we struggle. It's almost embarrassing to talk about the numbers that represents Black contracts in this marketplace. So we want to look at how that get expanded. Businesses, regardless whether you're in the service business, you're in the manufacturing business, the retail business, there are certainly opportunities for you to come. And one of the third areas that we're focused on, Dr. Woodhouse, and this is such a key area, and that is the whole idea of wealth creation, wealth retention, and wealth transfer. And Excellent. This area is an area that we cannot overstate.
I think that it's so powerful that you're covering those areas. Just to speak on it, when people are, especially we're in business, we need to be structured properly. That's one of my pet peeves, is that we're not structured to even receive the money. That's what happened during the pandemic with the PPP loans. People weren't structured. They, I'm in business. Well, okay, I'm an LLC. Okay, how are you being taxed? What does your tax returns look like? Some of the basics that need to be done. And once, like I cheesily say it, but it's true. If I had $1 for every LLC that was created in this country, I'd be a billionaire, so it wouldn't matter. But who's really making these businesses grow? And the other point, like you talked about, the legacy. I watched in my community a Chinese restaurant, and the young man came to take my order, and he spoke English very well compared to the other people in the place. And I just said to him, what are you doing here? And he said, oh, my family is making sure that I go to med school. So I have to serve by working in the restaurant. And he says, I've been working in this restaurant since I was a little tyke. And I always had a summer job because I worked for my family. Okay, we need to get that consciousness, because someone told us that we were going to go and get a city job, but you can't hire your child for your city job unless what you're doing is to provide the abilities for people to start getting contracting from the government. These are the things that I'm very passionate about, is that they understand how money works, what taxes look like, how to pay your taxes. And then also, as you said, also is that you're building wealth. Well, when we build wealth, we have to learn how to build wealth where we don't have to pay taxes on all that money. I'm not against paying taxes. I just think the government should get their fair share. And that is not 50% of my money.
That's right. And I think to your point, it is so key that we strengthen our focus. I talk about the need for a culture of commerce as opposed to a commerce of culture. And I think sadly in our community, we suffer from being in a place where the heavy focus is more a commerce of culture as opposed to a culture of commerce. So at the end of the day, we're in the barbershop business, we're in the maybe soul food restaurant business. We run a couple of operations that are consistent with our culture. If we're even doing retail, guess what we're selling? We're selling African attire. And the fact of the matter, at the end of the day, we wear mainstream shoes, we wear mainstream underwear, we wear mainstream, blouses and shirts, and we sit on mainstream chairs and all of that stuff. So what's that journey to get us into the mainstream of business as opposed to just, and the reason for that is that it becomes so much easier for us to do the mom and pop when the heavy focus is more a commerce in culture as opposed to learning from the little children, as you stated, learning as babes, learning in the pews at our churches, learning in the basements of our worship spaces, a culture of commerce. And so I think that is just a key part of what needs to be developed. And I also believe that one of the things that we have to do, one of the areas that we have to reshift our focus. Years ago, during a series of lectures I was doing at Columbia University, I coined these terms. One is CSD, compulsive shopping disorder. How do we break that? How do we grow, get beyond that? How do we rise from that perspective? The second is a prognosis that I developed that is called GDS, government dependency syndrome. The whole idea of us having a perception that we have to, we need the government. So while, to your point, the Chinese are busy hiring their children in the summertime, we're busy going to the government to provide summer jobs for our children. So these are just some of the key areas that requires a re-inculcation, a re-education. And so the whole concept behind the Black Church Means Business conference, the Resurgence conference, is to really begin to do what Bob Marley talks so much about, and that is to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, when we understand that none but ourselves can really free our minds.
Oh, that is so powerful. So we've got 2 days of which you have the opportunity. Now, are they different on the 2 days, different things for people? Is there like a schedule of what people will receive? And I know also there's a website.
Yes, for the 2 days there will be quite a number, and again, this is a resource-packed conference for the 2 days. Just the power people that's going to be there. There's probably going to be 50, 60 CEOs, presidents, CEOs of colleges and universities, businesses, not-for-profits, corporations that will be in the house. So the networking piece is going to be significant. The opportunity for folks to really gather resources is going to be key. But as the 2 days are broken down, there will be, yes, information session, but there will be some workshop sessions throughout the 2 days. So if you, for instance, want to learn and understand the process to become MWBE certified, information is how do you market your business? How do you create new opportunities, new market? If you're looking to borrow, how? What are the process to do that? We've even created, as we did starting last year, working with a number of institutions and banks to create a character lending program. So literally businesses who do not even meet the regular underwriting criteria can actually come to this conference and get information around the character lending opportunities that will be available. And again, a recommendation from your pastor, your imam, your rabbi, your spiritual leader, or an elected leader, or just a notable person in your community is able to cause these lending institutions to look favorable upon some of these ones. We just want to get the fact that we have lost so many Black-owned businesses through the pandemic, and I don't want to make the pandemic the issue, although we can certainly take advantage of the pandemic as an issue because it has had an impact. But the fact
Yes.
of the matter is that before the pandemic, we've been seeing a huge slip in terms of black businesses in New York. And I'm concerned that the 2022 Crane's New York Book of List that generally lists the 25 top minority-owned firms in New York City do not have a single black business in the 2022 list. And I will tell you, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, there was 13, 11, 9 black businesses on that list.
And that's one of the things is that there's over 400, they said about 425,000 black businesses will go out of business because of the pandemic. But again, my philosophy is that we have to, like what you're doing is bringing the literacy portion and the connections, the house. If you want to, because again, most of the banks and institutions have turned their back on us because we don't have the P&L statement, or our bank statements are revolving around, we got to borrow from Peter to pay Paul, so we've got to keep it going. And they're like, yes, we understand, but you're not a viable entity. So you're saying that this will allow, these are some people who will at least look at the opportunity and hopefully help people to get some aspects. I remember there was a place, it was a Mexican restaurant in Harlem. This was about 20 years ago. And it was getting ready to close. And the owner said he just needed $25,000. Now, in my head, as an accountant and financial advisor, I was like, $25,000 is going to keep you open? That's your capitalization. And he looked at me, he didn't understand what I was talking about. I said, you need to be capitalized more. And you can, but it was a tight thing, and he wound up closing. And that's what's so sad is that, we stand up and we say, buy black. Okay, then you got to go find black, because it's hard to find it if people can't keep their businesses open. And then, I spoke at a conference at Jacob Javits some years ago, and I said, first rule is that we as black people, when we go to a black business, stop looking for the deal to cut the money down, pay whatever they're asking you for. But secondly, as business owners, we've got to learn to do this. Smile, make someone feel they're appreciated, that they're doing business with you. We can do this, and we will. What you're doing, this event, and I would implore people to, I know it's on a Thursday and a Friday. Now, if we were going to play the lotto, we were going to go have a party, it didn't matter what day it is. Well, this is the party to financial freedom. And need to come. You need to come out, support. It's a real nominal fee to get in. It's awesome. It's affordable. In today's world with inflation, I know people say it's the dollar's tight. Well, yeah, but this dollar will open up to more dollars, 2 days. And, it's a power room. If you had the opportunity to be with make movers and shakers, this is a place to be, because we don't always get that opportunity. You've put together some really powerful people, and even the mayor going to be there. I got some words for him. I'll be because he started out with financial literacy, and all of a sudden it's gone.
And the fact of the matter, Dr. Woodhouse, there's so much that we have to do. Our former President Barack Obama made the point that it's up to you, it's up to me. It is to be, it's up to me. So each of us have to really take responsibility for this. But as you talk about access to capital, there are two sides to this. And I'm so happy that you're so heavily focused on one side of this. One side is, we could go out and we could get a loan, we could get grants And obviously, all of that will be available. But the other side of that is how do we manage our own capacity to create wealth so that when we need to get a loan, I remember the first time I went to a major conventional bank for a loan, I didn't know that I had to come up with the first 25% of what I need. So when I asked them for $100,000, they were looking to me to have 25,000, and I obviously didn't have it at the time. But now I learned, wow! And so we have to continue to teach our people as it relates to wealth creation. The fact that we are at the very bottom of the wealth barrel. Just about every place, every study, every survey, almost every market in the country. So while we're earning most times in a lot of places, in fact, in America, in a lot of categories, blacks are out earning whites.
Yes.
You know, for real, in some dollar categories between this 30,000 and 50,000, black people are making more than white people. So it's not that we don't have the income, but we're confused because we have a concept that it is the job that makes money. It is the business that makes money, failing to understand that at the end of the day, it is money that makes money. It is how we manage the money. It is how we are able to create, the third, coin, or the third concept that I came up with a number of years ago when everybody was talking about houselessness or homelessness. I was talking about houselessness and the importance of us owning real estate and how that looks when it's time to borrow. So key areas, key issues, it's an education journey, and it's truly about financial literacy. And again, we want to invite everybody, to your point, to come the 2 days, make the sacrifice and be there. If you can't come, find somebody and tell them that they need to be there at the Resurgence conference. And simply, it's resurgence2022.com. And by the way, even if you cannot afford the conference, call the office. And if you're serious about what you're doing and you have a path to success, we will be more than happy to help you with a scholarship. Because at the end of the day, we really want those who are serious about us really redeeming this thing. My commitment for the next 20 years, and I pray that God gives me, that He gives me these 20 years. My commitment is a Black economic renaissance, not just in New York City, but certainly across the United States and particularly on the continent of Africa. And this renaissance is really going to come about when we begin to create that new mindset.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that the wealth and the earning potential of our young Black people has grown. But the thing is that what you said before is the mindset. If I could come up with a pill to give a lobotomy to these people and get them to think about, okay, so if you're putting away and building, you're not going to have this money forever unless you make it grow. And that unless you learn how to make it grow. And what else do you do? My dad told me when I was 8 years old that he who writes the check is free. Okay. So I was like, I don't get it right. Because the only person who would take my check that I would write is my mother. So, but I got it because he said that you have to have a business, even if now they've got a new name for it, a gig economy. You do a side hustle. That's what we used to call it, high side hustles. But you got to be able to do something that will continue on. So many people have gone through the job route, retired young because they're in their 50s, and then they don't have anything else to do. So what do? They spend. And we know how to make it, and we sure know how to spend it, but we need to learn how to make it work for us. And it's not difficult. There are ways by which people can put money away. the same way as the wealthy have. That's one of the reasons why I became a broker in the first place. I wanted my people to learn how to make money grow the same way as the wealthy. And they were blocked because Wall Street didn't think that they were worthy. To this day, I fight continuously with my counterparts to say, yes, we are. Not only are we, but we can do this. We can make money with our money. How wonderful is it that you can honestly retire and have a tax-free income for the rest of your life, and then leave a legacy to your family? These are concepts that need to be taught. And so I'm praying that someone's there to talk about those things too, because that's something that we don't talk about, is the legacy to build.
Well,
Our children shouldn't have to start with $1. They need to have something to build upon.
and we certainly hope, Jana, that your time is going to allow you to come, so that you could be there to talk about some of these things, because I think it's important. I don't want us to just find ourselves talking. The reason why we have actually branded the Resurgence conference each year, in advance of the ensuing year. That's why it's Resurgence 2023. It is because we want to make sure that at the end of the day, there are deliverables that we're walking out of the conference with, and there's a journey. So we have a commitment. How many businesses do we want to see MWBE certified throughout the year? How many businesses do we want to see walk out of that conference and go now and are able to get loans of under 50,000 or loans over 50,000? How many businesses do we want to see walk out of there and they're negotiating a contract, or they're getting contracts with government and some of the diverse entities that will be present? And we're just so happy. I try not to call names because there's so many that's going to be there, but again, just challenges and encouraging some of these banks to do more. And I'm happy for those who are going to be there and have shared that commitment. And to the earlier point that you made, I threw up this concept that is called the unemployed, the underemployed, and the unemployable. How do we take those three categories in our community and really begin to thrust them forward? And so we want to make sure that opportunities are being provided in all categories. The unemployed, what are some of the options that we can now work with to get them employed? And to a great degree, self-employment, home-based businesses, other kind of opportunities. The underemployed, second and tertiary streams of income. Many of those will be offered and provided. So that moves you from a place of being unemployed, meaning that you're working, but you're not making enough money to function at a livable level or a comfortable livable level. And the third, and this is a huge category in our community. Most people don't know what I'm talking about when I mention the unemployable, but that's a huge group in our community. Whether the formerly incarcerated who can't get jobs because of their record, whether it's behavioral issues that prevent some people from working in the regular workforce. How do we help those individuals? Maybe you can create your own job. If you have a car and you're driving your car every day doing nothing, I mean, Uber might be a good job, or by the way, why don't you, organize, get some contracts with some cleaning companies, and because the average cleaner don't clean their own clothes. They just have a brick and mortar where they're collecting your clothes, they're sending it to the real cleaners, collecting it and delivering it. Well, you can do that without a brick and mortar, just between your car, or buy a van and use a van to do it. So there are just tons of other things that our people can do, but it requires education at this level.
I love that, because truly, yes, we have a high group of people that are in our community that may have made some mistakes in life, and they can't get employed. So they wind up back in that cycle because they have no other way to earn, or take care of their family. But I always talk to folks and I say, okay, what can you do at 7 o'clock in the morning and still do it at 7 o'clock at night? Have not stopped. That's your passion. Okay, now we got to find out how we're going to get somebody to pay you for it. And structure yourself, or even to the extent, okay, you have a situation where you were incarcerated and you might not be able to get the certain licenses. Guess what? There are other communities that have the same situation. So there's things called, strategic partnerships, that where someone else has the ability to take that on, and you still can build the business together. There's so much that we can do and so much knowledge in our community. We just need to be about it. So what you're doing, like, I will implore people that I'm putting it out there, the 17th and the 18th, that's the time you got to take off. We don't need to take off for the weekends and all of that stuff. And okay, give up Thanksgiving. Tell them you'll work for Thanksgiving so you could get out of work and go to this event. You've got to be, and you've got to network. Do not stand on the wall and not meet people that can help you. Tell them what you're wanting to do. God puts, I truly believe, the idea comes downloaded down, but it's not just to you, it's to others. Many people don't know that the Wright brothers had the idea of a flying machine, but there were many others who did too, but they made it happen. So that's what we have to have, is that ability to make it happen. You're making it happen by opening the door. I went to Black Wall Street last year. I was honored again as a Wall Street pioneer. I thanked them for it, but more so, that was 600 businesses that did business with each other. And the dollar that was spent in that community lasted in that community 3 to 5 years. How long does one last in our community? It doesn't make sense. We need to have it. So what you're doing, I want to see these businesses and these individuals who come to this conference come out and tell the story next year of how they were able to enhance their businesses or start their business.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a part of the process that we're so committed to, making sure that at the end of the day, folks can walk away. And we could certainly share so many successes that we have seen and endured over the years. The first Black Church Means Business Conference was done in 1994 at the Jacob Javits Convention Center. And prior to that conference, the Christian Times, since 1991, we've actually hosted monthly, probably maybe one of the first group in the city, within our community, that were hosting regular monthly business networking session going back as early as 1992. And I'm talking about outside of the chambers of commerce and the actual business organization, because we believe, you mentioned earlier that faith cannot live in the same room with fear. Fear and faith cannot function and survive in the same room. Our commitment and passion really is to understand the church as a sleeping giant and the importance of a revival. I certainly believe that that any true spiritual revival is going to create economic impact. And where there is economic impact, there will be political transformation. And where there's true political transformation, there's going to be social change and social stability. We're doing it in the reverse. And Black folks need to stop thinking that we can solve our sociological illnesses regardless of what they are, be it crime, education, healthcare. We can't solve these problems through any amount of social agendas. We can only solve these problems when, I believe, we journey back to God foundation and allow that foundation to drive us to a place of economic power. And when we gain economic power, we truly have legitimate political control. Politics is not power. It's control, it's not power. Economics is power. And I think that has to be the journey that we as a race of people need to move on. And it needs to take place not just here, but across the globe. And I truly believe that until blacks in America rise to a place of power and freedom, we will never be able to free Africa because of the years of economic strangulation and economic disempowerment that the continent has suffered.
Oh, I definitely agree. I think that this will make the beginning. I wanted to ask you, because this is so much information that people will be receiving. Do you have a mechanism where you can track what people are doing, or when we fall by the wayside, where fall through the cracks, many banks and entities say they're going to help. Well, is there a tracking system to make sure to keep them accountable? Because you're exposing them to a lot of people, and that's profitable to them. So is there a mechanism by which you're going to be tracking?
I love that question so much because this is an area that we've been concerned about, we've been talking about, and this time around we've actually put in place a team, and their actual function is to put together an app, put together a process and a system that will ensure that we're not just tracking, but we're hand-holding. We want to really, hold the hands of as many of these enterprises as possible. I could just rattle off a number of successes within our community for which the New York Christian Times and the Black Church Business Conference and our diverse initiatives have had tremendous impact and influence in creating. Us this time around want to make sure that the commitment is not just for us to create individuals who will build reservoirs, but we really want to create individuals and corporations that will now begin to build rivers so that it will flow to the larger community and not be stagnant with the individual enterprises and the individual businesses. So yes, it's a part of the commitment, it's a part of the journey, and we certainly want to make the point that we're so open to everybody who said, listen, that is something I want to be a part of. How can I come and be a part of? How do we really help to ensure this? The only way we're going to create this Black economic renaissance is really if we all come together or find a role to play and do this together and lift this from the narrow realm of an institution or a few institutions and thrust it into the broader realm of Black people doing business differently and doing business to ensure that we are creating wealth, we are perpetuating wealth. We are not owning high rises in Manhattan like everybody else. We're developing malls and major developments like everybody else. We're owning franchises at the level of everybody else. And we're moving out of the space where at the end of the day, everybody else fit in a category of being merchants, being owners, whereby Black people, for the most part, we're almost totally in a place where we are the consumers and everybody else the merchants.
I love this. I love it. I'll definitely be there without a doubt. I'll lend whatever I can do to help. I needed more forums, to be able to, because again, I'm thankful to Soul City because we're able to be on every Thursday, but more so, I want to be able to get to my folks, keep them just financially literate, even if they decide I want the journey of the broke, the job. It's okay. But what do you do with those funds? I want to see this. So whatever I can do, I definitely am open to doing it, helping out and educating, because once we know better, we're going to do better. But we got to know
Yeah,
better.
absolutely. So we're committed. We want to take the show back on the road. Actually, my focus has been New York City, and then I've done some work in the Caribbean. And the past maybe 8 or so years, my heavy focus has been the continent of Africa. We have already been to maybe about 23 or so countries in Africa with our empowerment agenda, starting with the invitation of the former president of Cote d'Ivoire. And by the way, at this conference, we have a delegation that's coming from the Ivory Coast. We have those who are coming from South Africa and others. So Ghana. So we're really serious about what it takes to move the needle. A part of our commitment is there's so many Black billionaires in Africa, tons more than we have in the United States of America. This has not always been the case, by the way. So we have to credit the fact that Black people and Africans, we've made some progress, particularly as we're breaking the colonization and the European stranglehold, and the journey, by the way, for us to work to ensure that there's not an Asian stranglehold that comes behind the European stranglehold is another part of the agenda. But at the end of the day, a free enterprise system is fine, but we have to work so much harder in making sure that our representation at the table is commensurate with our population, which is probably in close to 3 billion Black people across this globe.
Without a doubt. We're not going to ask for the seat. We're taking the seat at the table. One of our other shows is Leverage Your Credit. And Mr. Tyrone, oh goodness, Tyrone, you're going to kill me. All of a sudden, my brain went to freeze. Well, Tyrone, as I always teasingly tell him, if you want to know about credit, you got to call on Tyrone. But Tyrone, so Tyrone is proficient with credit. There's no doubts about it. He is so powerful. And he just wrote that he's thanking you, for this opportunity, which he prays many individuals and businesses of color will take, advantage of it. But so he's going to call me tomorrow. So if you need anybody to talk about credit,
there as well, yes. Mm-hmm.
Credit and business credit, Tyrone is phenomenal with it, and especially getting businesses connected to the Dun and Bradstreet. We don't even think about it, but he did a session that talked about the fact that we only know about our own credit scores, but how about having your business with a credit score? Now you got 2 credit scores, and then you can build on that, So there's so much with that. Real estate, businesses movement, we get to change the world. Oh gosh, the time went by so fast. But I am so thankful to you. Definitely, I want to see this event skyrocket. I tell everybody, please make the time. Take the time. If you can't make both days, which I think you should, but if you can't make both days, make one. Take one. And when you get there, make sure you have a way by which you can connect and talk to people and gather information. And guess what? Alma John said it so well. She says, each one teach one, each one reach one. We've got to reach out. So once you come, if you got the opportunity to get there and then someone couldn't come, share the information and then make sure they can come the next time. But that's why I wanted to know about the find out how we're going to record this, because, this is so important, and I'm assuming also it's going to be streamed. Is there going to be a streaming?
It will be streamed. I certainly want to talk to to Soul City so we could talk about that and have the media team to do that follow-up. But we're really excited about this. Again, it's the 17th and 18th. That's next week, Thursday and Friday. It will be at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. That is downtown Brooklyn, right over the Manhattan Bridge.
Okay.
So we're literally right on the Harlem River. So you could literally take the ferry there if you're in Lower Manhattan, or not just Lower Manhattan. Now you can get the ferry at 96th Street. You could get the ferry from Astoria, from Long Island City.
No excuse.
Wall Street, and you take the ferry to Brooklyn Navy Yard. You're there, So that's another way to get you, in addition to subway and everything else. So we certainly want to invite and encourage everyone to come and play a role. It's really us saying, let's go beyond talk. Let me come, let me play whatever role I can play. And again, those who need help, just give, maybe you could give a call to the office, let them know that you heard me and you want to come, but you can't afford to. But it's not a lot of money. But even if you can't afford to, we still want you to be there if you're serious.
Yes.
That's really what we're looking for. So I'll give that number, 718-638-6397, which is also on the screen. 718-638-6397 is the number to call. And I'll just leave my email. Don't want to be overwhelmed because it's crazy busy, but I'll leave it nonetheless. And I can transfer it because my email might be the easiest one to give you. And that is publisher@nychristiantimes.com.
Got it.
Publisher@nychristiantimes.com. Such a pleasure being with you, Dr. Jana, and so inspired by your work and your leadership. And we certainly salute you and encourage you to keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Reverend Dillon, for coming on board to Access Wealth Nation. This has been truly an honor. And then I'm going to have you back because you got to tell me the report of what's going on. We got to talk about this. Keep it going all year long so that people will be excited and do. As I always say is if we know better, we'll do better. So thank you again for being on Access Wealth Nation. Please be out there and support. The whole situation out here is it's in our hands. It's up to us. If it's to be, it's up to we. And so again, thank you again for being on Access Wealth Nation. Thank you for listening and joining in, and let's act. And also don't forget to get your checkup from the neck up and be financially free. Thank you again.
She was told that she couldn't play with the boys. She was told that they were too big, too rough, too strong. She was told to give up her dreams and move on. She was told to just be pretty, be quiet, be a lady. She was told that women had to stay on their side of the court, stay in your lane. Playing and competing with men was insane. She was told that men and women would never be equal. Dreaming like that would only be linked to your mind, to your soul. She never listened. She knew that their thinking was old. She is magic. She is the definition of spirit. She is what champions are made of. She is now.